Morning, Steve Freed in Chicago with the morning grain comments. Well, today in Chicago it's wet, and it's going to be pretty much wet all week across most of the Midwest. We pray for all those that were in part of the big storms that moved across the southern part of the United States yesterday. Markets are up overnight, led by the nearby beans. I think soybeans are still trying to balance the fact that there's big supplies in South America, and there's talk about lower China demand versus the tight U.S. soybean and maybe the summer soybean meal situation. I think late on Friday there was talk that since we had such a break in the beans that China was back in the market looking to buy some beans from Brazil, and I think that sparked a rally in the beans. We also saw the corn and bean market both rally up to some particular strike prices or close to strike prices as we get close to the options expiration. And pretty soon we're going to have first bonus day on the maize contracts, and their funds are kind of down to a certain level that they have to be going into the delivery period. Individual markets besides the beans and seeing a little bit of pickup maybe in China demand, we'll probably be seeing some acres that might be switched from corn to beans in the south and maybe even up in the northern area. So eventually when we look out at November bean contracts, they seem kind of high, but they're still going to be drug up by the nearby friendliness in the July contract. Over in the corn, we saw one private analyst raise their estimate of 2013-14 corn demand by 150 million bushels. Most of this on the export side. That brings the carryout down and it elevates the price potential of where corn prices might go. We expect that 21% of the corn's planted by Monday's data from the USDA, and that's versus 31 normal. So we're ahead of last year. We have a whole week of rain this week, and so we might see planting slowed this week. And hopefully the extended models look warmer and drier. Over the wheat, a war did not erupt in Ukraine over the weekend, but we're also watching pretty closely to see what the Russians' next step is, and we're also going to see some additional sanctions put against the Russians for their quote-unquote move into the eastern part of Ukraine. So the wheat market's going to be watching that closely. All the rains that are hitting the Midwest are missing parts of the southern plains, and the wheat conditions down there are starting to slowly deteriorate from their already low levels. This week we've got tour people out looking at the Kansas wheat crop, and at the end of the week they'll be coming up with a Kansas crop estimate. And anything below 300 million bushels might be supportive to the marketplace. Outside markets, we're going to be watching first quarter U.S. GDP. We're watching manufacturing data out of China, jobs data out of the U.S. a little bit later this week. And so kind of a big week for the financial markets. The overnight dollar is a little bit lower, and most commodities are mixed a little bit higher. As always, these are my thoughts and not those of ADM or ADM Investor Services, and have a safe and profitable trading day.
That's his favorite place. She was at the football game last night. 25 and a quarter. UVA.